Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Talk With, my podcasty type show, as uh, I called it when talking to Gary Russell. Um, and I'm here with Jack Alexander, host of an awful lot of running podcasts and Battles in Fandom. Introduce yourself.
Well, I mean that's me. I'm Jack Alexander. I also host a podcasty thing. Very podcasty. Yeah, I do. I co-run an awful lot of running. The Doctor Who podcast, which is one I co-run with my partner in crime, my tin dog, published author Robin Fole, and it's a discussion-based podcast. We sometimes have guests on, like yourself. We talk about Doctor Who in all its forms, and then we also have Battles in Fandom, which, as you say, is well, it's just crazy mental debate battles between Doctor Who fans, and hilarity ensues. Yeah,
Well, if there's any group of fans on the internet that know how to debate, it's certainly Doctor Who fans.
yeah.
But before we,
Basically, I looked at Twitter and went,
Mm.
"That's great, but how can I monetize that?"
Yeah, how can you get the energy there and put it into
Yeah.
content? I respect that. First things first, before we get into that, how are you today? You all right?
Yeah, I'm really good, mate. I'm really good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good as always. Same old, same old. Well, got Comic Con tomorrow, which we've just been discussing before we got
Yeah.
into the call, which is so I love Comic Cons. They're just some of my favorite places on the planet. Um, Another thing, how's Robin? Just out of curiosity, is Robin
Oh,
doing
he's
well?
great. Yeah, he's really good. He's just got back yesterday after flying for 24 hours after spending 3 weeks in the Philippines meeting his girlfriend's family, and they had an amazing time, is what I've heard. I can't wait to properly catch up and do a pod with him. As much as I've loved doing ones with people like Kat Wheeler and Joel Johnson, who have filled in wonderfully as co-hosts. But
Mm.
I'm looking forward to having my tin dog back. Definitely.
Well, that's
Which is a
brilliant to
very
hear.
it's an affectionate term
Of
that for
course, of
anyone that's
course.
listening. Yeah.
But yeah, Battles in Fandom. Getting straight into that first things first, because it's an inspired concept, as we've just been discussing what it is, and genuinely brilliant show. It's brilliant to be part of the first episode, by the way. Thanks for having me on that. I know
No, please, I had to.
I know I was supposed to be on the recent one, but couldn't make it. But I heard, well, not to spoil it, of course, but Davis was my representative, as it were.
Yeah,
How did that
he
go?
took on that. Well, it was fantastic. It was. I'll say it now. It was supposed to be like a consolation prize because I had put it forward to be at Comic Con to be a panel and the live show, and this time just wasn't fortunate this time, but. I'll try again, and I'm very confident in the future that something will happen. And so I basically just got the people that I was going to do that with, and got them on a call, and we're like, right, let's do a Halloween special instead. And it happens sometimes where people can't turn up for things, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
never worry about that because it happens and people have lives. So
Oh, of course,
yeah,
of course.
Sam Davis very gallantly stepped in with your answers, and I think he had a good time. So
Yeah, and I'll be coming back on the show for Christmas special, I believe, and
yes, yeah,
I will be given Sam's answers. I like that twist on things. I think that's
yeah.
very cool idea out of my absence, but it's a very cool idea.
It's made me think about maybe it'd be really funny to do like a crazy episode in like April
Mm.
where it's like everyone, like all three participants have to swap their answers to the questions. So they've prepared an argument and they go say, oh, by the way, you're answering these questions. By the way, you're answering these answers instead. Just
An
because I
April
think it
Fool's
just,
Day special.
yeah,
And
could be
that,
good that,
yeah.
because I definitely want to. I mean, we've done 4 episodes this year. We'll end up having done 6. So, we've definitely done more towards the end of the year now. But next year, I want to. It's been like a pilot series, this first
Mm.
part of Battles of Fandom. Just I wanted to see that the format would work. And it does. I think it's a great show and I'm proud of it. And I know
Oh,
Robin's proud of it too. And I think people come on and they have a really good time, which is lovely. And I think the content speaks for itself then, which is nice. And I'm not trying to big myself up there.
oh no,
But
no, by all means. I mean, as a participant in the show, I can say it's a really inspired concept. Overall, just brilliant, really. I mean, it was really fun to be a part of, and Well, and especially the first date question at the end, which I put as a highlight on my
Yes.
channel. That was the funnest. Like that's like like laugh like I couldn't stop laughing at that while giving that answer, let alone watching it back or listening to it back. It's definitely worth a watch or listen. And I can't recommend that episode enough, really, and any episode of the show. But that answer.
Honestly, it's funny how like that episode, that first episode, it really just because it was an experiment, that first episode that I had
Mm,
you on. It was, it was you, it was Sam, and it was Philip Hawkins, and it was what I wanted. It was lightning in a bottle, which is fantastic, because I'm gonna be completely honest, it's not an original idea. I looked at what Screen Junkies were doing with movie fights about 5, 6 years ago and went, "Oh, I can do that, but make it Doctor Who."
mm,
And because I look at our community, I look at the different types of things that we have, and we have lots of different types of shows. We have audio dramas that you produce yourself. We have fan films. We have fantastic sort of editorials. We have video essays done by
yeah,
people like Mr. TARDIS. Or vacuum comments, Ben.
yeah.
We've got Broke Cannon, the community show as well.
Mhm.
Amazing stuff. We've got Who Knew, which is, the best Doctor Who talk show that you could ever hope for.
Well,
And then
who
you've
knew
got
about
stuff
that?
like yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got stuff like the review of Death as well. And I just went, well, look, I love an awful lot of running, and I love doing the crazy discussions of
Mm.
fan theories, or pitching weird episodes, or pitching how we do a series of Doctor Who if we were going to do it, or just talking about Death of the Author or something like we did with you,
Yeah.
or but then I was like, well, I want to try and branch out. I want to try to do something different, because I think the more diversity that we can have in this community is amazing, and particularly in the type of content that we can talk about. Because I initially thought, oh, something like Mock the Week, that'd be really good. But then when I came up with it, COVID rates were going back up again, and I've said the word now. I've said it. Let's rip that band-aid off. Yeah, because it was last year I was coming up with this idea, but I sort of just went, right, what's different to that? Okay, oh well, movie fights is quite good. I can apply that
Mm.
to Doctor Who. That's a different show then. That's something within Doctor Who, but offering something different, which I think is great. We can
Mm.
have that. We can all have these different things, really. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you ever go for a mock the week style show, I believe there is a space now. There is a market
Yeah.
for that type of show now. Now that
Yeah, that's I might
yeah,
give that a little bit of time. I've already got
mm,
I've
maybe
already
too
got
soon. Yeah.
three. Yeah, I got three shows underneath the awful lot of running sort of umbrella a minute now, because we'll have Dimensions and Daleks coming out soon as well, which will be
Mm.
us doing Critical Role basically, but it being Doctor Who,
Yeah, I can't
using
wait for that.
using Cubicle Seven's Doctors and Daleks game, which is fantastic because it is just, if people know D&D,
Mm.
it's basically fifth edition, but Doctor Who, and yeah, it's gonna be a fun show.
Oh, it's
I've
gonna be
I've
brilliant.
got I don't know if Sam's told you anything about the characters that we're planning, but there's some fun stuff.
Mm.
I'll say that
They've
because
told me
it
absolutely
literally,
nothing, but I want to go in blind, and I feel like
yeah.
it'll be interesting because I've not had that much D&D experience in my time. I mean,
Mm.
I have done a few role play things. I mean, uh there was this guest I brought on a while back, Ollie Alexander, who absolutely brilliant, has created these incredibly role play games, and I did a few online ones during COVID, well, one or two, and that was a lot of fun. And of course, I've known my flatmates since D&D, and I know a lot of people are into D&D, and I look forward to trying it properly, just throwing myself into it, and I feel like it'd be a lot of fun.
It's really funny actually, because I've spoken to a few people, and a few people have come forward and said they wanted to get involved and do it, which is, that's sort of how Sam got involved in the first place. Davis, he was just like, can I do this with you, please? Can I be a co-host? And I was like, well, I spoke to Robin, and we went, yeah, sure, absolutely. We both absolutely love your stuff. You're a good mate. Let's do this. And it's great actually, because a lot of people that are coming to us that want to do it are sort of like D&D novice, not novice and what have you. And
Yeah.
I'm by no means the biggest D&D, fan. I've not had, I've played it for maybe 2 or 3 years, and mainly just through online sessions, because obviously, the world we've been living in. But
Yeah.
I do love it. But then Robin's coming to us with like 10 years plus experience.
Wow.
So yeah, we're very much leaning on him, and it's going to be very interesting to see. We've all got weird ideas for in terms of worlds and campaigns and characters that we want to bring in, but it's just going to be fun because I feel like a lot of our guests in particularly this like pilot series we're going to do are going to come on and be like their own version of the Doctor, and our cast will just be it'll be like an anthology series basically, and our characters will just be there, and they're always there. So yeah,
Yeah, I
it'll be
look forward
fun.
to it because I mean, Dungeons and Dragons D&D is quite a popular subculture of podcasting and videos on YouTube and such, and I look forward to being a part of it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, what I do is I look at something that's working and I say, right, how can I rip that off? So,
I mean, I fully respect that. Um, and yeah, I mean, of course, you brought up the other episode of, well, not Battles in Fandom, but An Awful Lot of Running, which is your main
mm.
podcast, that I was on, which was about Death the Author. That was a particularly interesting episode to be a part of, that one. I mean, I heard there was a bit of a few well, you know,
Oh, we had a couple. We had a
yeah, in the
couple. Nothing much,
reviews.
But and that's just going to happen sometimes, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I just thought, well, number one, I don't know how turfs have found our podcast in the first place,
Yeah, it's
and then
strange. I mean, they're
and
everywhere
then
nowadays,
yeah, well, that's the thing,
hiding
isn't
in the
it? Yeah,
corner of
so.
your eye.
you know.
Yeah.
But then, in a way, I could say like, thanks for the listen. I'll take that. I'll take
I
any at the minute. So,
yeah, I mean, first things first, there's no room for turfs in this fandom. That's
damn
easily
straight.
can be said. Transphobes in general can fuck off. And
Hmm.
I will say that every episode of this podcast if I have to, because it
I will
needs to be
always
said.
say, yeah, and I will always say, trans lives matter, straight up.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, we're all human at the end of the day. Um, we all want to live our lives, and that's what matters, that we get to decide who we are. And the more people that are happy with who they are, the more people that have the ability to be happy with who they are within the society, makes it a brighter place, makes it a better place, a better place to
Exactly.
live, and a happier place, because the more people that aren't happy with themselves, of course everything's going to be grayer and duller and
Exactly.
more, I'd probably say conservative, shall we say. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's the right word
definitely. Yeah.
there. But
I
yeah.
think for me it always comes back to my moral compass, and my moral compass comes from Doctor Who. It's very telling for me that in War of the Centaurans, when Yaz has "What would the Doctor do" written on her hand, because
Well, yeah,
that's something that rings in my head there, and I know for a fact the Doctor would be inclusive and would
of
celebrate
course.
diversity, and the Doctor would be front of the queue championing, the trans community,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you know,
exactly. Well, and I think you make a great point, and a great point of discussion there about how our moral compasses are defined by like our surroundings and what we've watched and what we grew up with. I mean, you'd think there would be more love and inclusivity in this fandom, and there is. There's plenty. There's a lot of it. It's like one of the main aspects of it, but there's also so much like there is toxicity there. I wouldn't.
oh, there is.
I would say at the end of the day, the positivity triumphs. It always triumphs. I've always seen more of it. I've always known. I've gained so many friends and met so many brilliant people from all communities through this fandom and through this YouTube channel and through this podcast and through this audio series that I do. And it's a particularly interesting conversation because you're right. Everyone who's watched this show kind of takes something from it, whether it be morals or characteristics, or in my case, the sideburns, or yeah.
I had that phase when I was 19 as well. So, but I'm 31 now, and I can't get away with the sideburns anymore. So,
Mm.
I'm
Well,
too fat
yeah,
and old.
nobody's too old for sideburns, surely.
Well,
Don't you stop it now. Ever since I've moved here, everyone has either said that I speak like Tennant or pointing out the sideburns in their hair, and that this is not because
I
of the
can't.
show, but
I can't help it. I can't help it. It's my vernacular now because
it's yeah.
like growing up with Tenet. I say growing up. I was 15 when was
Mm.
I no I was 14 when Tenet first came onto the screen, but at the same time that's young enough an age for it to still imprint on my personality entirely. So I can't say well normally. It's always
Neither can I. I mean,
some formulation of that, you know.
I mean, even Avi Louise pointed out on the TT conversation that I did recently. I mean, ever since like it's just I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I'm not ever doing it intentionally. It's just a matter of, as you
Yes,
said, it's kind of embedded into it. It's embedded
it
into
is. Yeah,
how I
and it's the
speak.
same. It's the same. Oh yes,
Oh
it's
yes.
the same. I can't help it, you know.
But even
And
my own
I
sister pointed out that I was more recently. I think it's because like I've been introducing the show to my friends, and we've been watching it through series one to and we're on series four now because we've also been watching Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures. So we've been properly going through it in chronological order. I mean, we
nice.
even the other day we got through not the other day, a week or two ago now, week or like 3 weeks even, we watched all the way through Captain Jack Harkness to the Last of the Time Lords. So it was like a proper like all the way
That's
through.
that's straight up some of the best Doctor Who right there. In
Exactly.
that,
They
you know.
agreed. They agreed. And for context, the person I was introducing this show to, primarily, a good friend of mine since my college days, a few years back now, um, thought that the Daleks were the Doctor's friends before we started watching the show. He had no experience with it whatsoever. Didn't. Yeah, that was my
Sorry,
reaction.
just
Well,
excuse me. It's so weird to me because I just
mhm,
I don't know because I feel like I always knew what a Dalek was. I feel like
yeah.
I grew up with that and like I'm a child of the wilderness years.
Mhm.
Totally I am, and
The
it's
dark
because
times.
I was oh
Well,
yeah yeah
they're very good.
yeah no I'm a 91 baby so
Oh,
so
God damn it. Yeah.
the closest thing to me being born is fucking in dimensions and time. So
Mm. I mean,
and
I think as Dimensions and Jenny would agree, that is a great episode to be born around. I mean, God,
I love Jenny.
I was about
Jenny,
to say
you're
well
amazing.
again, and I was about to say
Jenny.
that's it's instinct. It's like become a part of
It
my
is. It
vocabulary, like
is.
my
It's just
dialect.
it's muscle memory, isn't it? You just go straight
Mm.
into it. You can't help it.
Like,
Yeah. No, I love Jenny, and
mm.
Dimensions in Time does have a special place in my heart. It's canon. It is there. I've
Oh,
said it.
it's totally
You
can.
know.
You heard it here
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And the war chief is not the master. Take that, Jacob.
We are not getting onto that conversation.
No. No.
I mean, I had enough of that with Gary Russell and Jacob. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that and can I just say that was such a good episode as
I
well. I
know
mean,
it was like,
I'm a big fan of A Talk With, and that one was just I sat there and I went, I want the Rory, Gary Russell, and Jacob show every week. Like, can
well,
this be
just
a podcast?
just being like the kind of fly in the wall, like still very much about the conversation, but even like listening to the both of them speak was genuinely amazing. I mean, just
Mm,
getting a chance to speak to them both is amazing in general. I mean, I'm glad to
yeah.
know the contacts and friends I've made along the way, such as yourself in this, you know,
Yeah. Well,
through
it's
my
funny that
journey
as
here.
well. Yeah, and it's funny that because we came from, we met each other and started talking through positivity on Twitter.
Yeah,
Do,
yeah.
do you remember the exact like time we actually clicked?
Let
Like,
me think.
because I know it, so I'm
I
interested to
think
see if you can remember it.
I think it might have. What was it? I don't know if it was the. I don't know if it was through. There, I know because I've been a part of a few positive posts because I know there was one which kind of started the Love and Monsters brand that I've been a part of, which was. But I know there
You
was also
converted me.
yes,
You
I know.
converted me on that.
We'll get
Yeah.
to that, but I can't remember the specific post we kind of
So
But
I
then
can tell you exactly now. I can tell you exactly now. It was just after the release of Dalek Universe 1. And of
oh yeah,
course,
because we were
yeah,
both in the trailer. I
we were
remember
both in the
now.
trailer.
Oh, I
We were both in the
completely
trailer.
forgotten
And
about
like
that.
and like I was still very I like to think I'm still very much on like the outskirts of the fandom. Like I'm nowhere near as known or popular as anyone anywhere. But I just do what I do
Well,
because I love it.
well, yeah, that's
But
what we all do, really. I mean,
that was yeah, and that was such a massive moment for me that Big Finish used something that I had said in a trailer to promote like a
likewise.
series with my favorite Doctor, and then
Mm.
we started talking because they tagged us in it in the comments,
Mm.
and because I already knew Dark Days and was a big fan of it, I went, "Oh wait, I just realised you're that Rassilon production."
Oh, I remember now. Yeah. Oh
And
wow.
you
I
were
mean,
like, "Oh my god, I've never had that before." That's it.
yeah, that was I think you're the first person to ever recognize me, as because at that point I was completely faceless, not in the idiot's lantern type way, more in the, didn't do a face reveal
Deep
back
pull, yeah.
then. Um and so everyone at first, I'd gotten like a few people saying, "Oh, I thought Davis was the creator of Dark Days," because he was such an integral part as the villain, and
Mhm.
he had quite a role in a discussion of where we were going to plan to take the villain. But and because, to be fair, early Dark Days especially is quite heavy on the canon aspect of the show, so everyone kind of immediately kind of linked Davis to that,
Yeah, I
Dark
wonder
Days.
why. Wonder why. That's strange, that isn't it? I mean, he's
Yeah,
never said anything about canon before, has he?
yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I have no idea how they drew those lines together. Like I mean, it was great to get I mean, that was insane, because like Dave was kind of the first like content creator I'd kind of talked to at the time, outside of well, I hadn't really talked to anyone at the time because I recently joined Twitter at that time. I mean, uh before that I like to detract everything before Twitter, because Twitter was kind of the main start.
Mm.
And it was and then I kind of I just reached out to Davis, and he was very approachable, and from then on, um it's been a joy knowing him. I I consider him a friend. He's great, he's brilliant. He's absolutely
Hmm.
brilliant. um
Yeah, and it's so funny. You find that a lot of these people, because I was, I've like I only really got into this fandom like properly, or started making myself trying to make myself known with an awful lot of running in like 2020,
mm,
early 2021. Because before that, it was just I love Doctor Who. It's a massive part of my life, but I wasn't into it. And I remember Jack Reeves did this a couple months ago about, like adoration, or like,
mm,
worshipping almost these fans, when actually they're just people.
yeah,
And you find that, I was a great admirer
exactly.
of your work, and, we're friends now, Sam as well,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's, they're just people, and they're so approachable,
Mm.
and,
I
you know,
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. Although that is an interesting conversation, adoration, and because of course I don't agree fully with putting people on a pedestal, but I believe
mm,
being inspired by people
yeah.
that's a good source of adoration
Hmm.
there, or
Yeah.
like
And I
not
think
really adoration as per se, but I feel like it's yeah,
Yeah, and I think you can respect a person's work without, like you say, putting them up on a
placing them on a
pedestal.
pedestal.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which I'm very guilty of that before this, all started, because I was like, oh, I'll start a Doctor Who podcast, but like Mr. TARDIS will never want to come on that. And then when I asked Will, he was like, oh yeah, sure, when? And it was, he's just they're just people, even though I've been watching Will stuff for like over a decade, and I built that up in my head. It was just, yeah, sure. And Will's great for that, and
Yeah.
he does a lot of stuff in the community. So
I mean,
yeah, it's funny really,
I
because
mean, like talking of all that and talking like making friends within the community and, realizing all this. I mean, we actually met at the BFI, of course, and that was like
yeah,
Galaxy 4, which quite an insane one to for everyone to
that
kind of gather
was
at, to be fair. But it was insane. It was
that was the
brilliant.
strangest fucking day. Honest to God, because I think at that time I had maybe like 160 followers on Twitter,
Hmm.
and like I was doing the podcast, and I had you on, and Davis had just been on, and like we I really only started to grow a little bit after that, but like we were there, and like we're walking in to the BFI because I met up with you because I
Mhm.
knew you beforehand, and we
Yeah.
went in, and Sam comes up, and then we're in the bar there, and we're stood around, and then we go and have dinner, and it's you, me, Jude,
Mm.
Philip Hawkins, Mr. TARDIS,
Josh Carr.
and Josh Carr,
Yeah.
and
Well,
Sam, and I'm just like, it was the most imposter syndrome moment I've ever had because I literally just sat there going, yeah, I like all these guys. Like they're all big inspirations to me with my stuff. But what the hell am I doing here?
well, I can say this now, and I've always told you this, and I've always said this, that you were very welcome at that table. I mean, and you make amazing content, brilliant content, incredible content, fantastic content, and it's
Thank
always a
you.
pleasure talking to you. And you're always a part of the group, and as you said, there's no pedestals, there's no adoration, it's not, it's not an inner circle. It's not, it's not strict. It's not like that. It's never been like that. And you're always
Hmm.
welcome. You're always welcome. I mean, I get imposter syndrome at times. I mean, I think like I think a lot of creatives do. A huge amount of people I've talked to have
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, and it's terrible. It's an awful thing to go through because you deserve to be at that table. You made and have been continuing to make incredible content, as I said, with all those words,
Well,
so many words there. But yeah,
like that, mate, that Rory, that genuinely does mean the world coming from you because I mean you and like all the people on that table were inspirations for an awful lot of running because yeah, this is it. This is where I start talking about the genesis of an awful lot of running, a Doctor Who podcast. I hit burnout at Doctor Who in 2020. I finally hit that point. Timeless Children for me at that time was too much,
mm.
and I thought I was done with the show for a bit. I thought, oh, okay, I'm thankful for a break now, what have you. And then, of course, the world was ending. And I felt myself, actually, I need the Doctor more than ever. And luckily, Emily Cook organised this amazing
Oh yeah,
Doctor Who lockdown tweet alongs,
incredible.
which was beautiful. And it's exactly what the community needed. And I
Oh yeah,
made so
yeah.
many friends just from doing that and tweeting along and what have you. And then but it also made me I was watching already lots of fan created stuff, but then I found like a new
Mm.
appreciation for it again. So I found more again. So I found your work, and I was already watching Sound's work, and I found Who Knew when it came out as well. And I was looking at all this stuff, and I was loving it, and I was like, no, you know what? I've always wanted to do something creative. I've always wanted to do something. I've not got the skill to make audio dramas. I've not got the know-how to edit things together, but I can talk about Doctor Who. I can do that. I love a Doctor Who podcast. And so I went to my friend Robin, who I've known for a good 10, 15 years now. We met doing theatre
Mm.
back in my hometown, Exeter. The Northcott Youth Company. We did a lot of drama there together, and I knew he loved Doctor Who. And I just said to him, I said, look, I know you're more a fan of New Who and you're more of a casual fan, but I kind of want to do a podcast, and I'd love you to be part of it because you have a writer's brain. Like again, he's a published author. He's written 2 books now at this point. First one's out on Amazon. Please go get it. It's called Last Human.
I will
Uh,
put that in the description. And
yeah,
I'll
definitely.
put
And
all
then
the
he's
links to everything in the description, by
yeah,
the way. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, he's got a second one coming out as well, which I'm sure people will love as well. But I was like, yeah, I want to do this and I want to talk about Doctor Who. And we started it, we had fun. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh, it'd be really nice to get a guest on sometime and talk about Doctor Who. And then weirdly, that same day, you put a tweet out. You put a tweet out, and you were like, if anyone ever wanted to grab me for a podcast, I'd love to come on. And I was like, yeah, this is my window. This is it. This is it now. Operation Rassilon Productions podcast, go. And it resulted in what it resulted in, and here we are now. Like
Indeed, we
30
are.
episodes, something later. Yeah.
And for anyone watching and listening, by the way, that tweet still stands up. By the way, I am very happy to be a guest on a podcast. It's literally my surname, so by all means, just ask me. I'm always willing to be a part of people's
It's
content.
not my surname, but I'll happily come on anything as well. Please. I'm desperate. Please. I had to beg Rory to let me on here. I had to cry and scream into the microphone and go, Rory, please. No, I didn't really. He's too nice. Well,
yeah. Oh God, I didn't mean to, like, I mean,
I like this. I like being on the other side. It's quite funny, I can cover like I can be. It means I can be chaotic. It's
I
lovely.
mean, when I went on TT Conversations, I mean, I was having a discussion with Abby beforehand, and it was like, they said, oh, it's like, it's gonna be like two hosts talking. It's gonna be like they were gonna be like fighting for like who's gonna be host, who's gonna be guest, and it was like I ended up like saying brilliant like 31 times during that podcast. Like I don't know why, but I just keep on saying brilliant. It's become a thing now that I have a I've been described as a cartoony David Tennant. I say brilliant a lot, and it's gotten to the point in which my own sister has pointed out that I speak a lot more like David Tennant recently. And I mean, there are worse identity crises to go through.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
you can do worse than model yourself on David Tennant as the 10th Doctor or 14th Doctor. Or let's not get into that.
well,
Actually, let's not
that's
open
not.
that can of worms.
We'll get to that another day because I know you've got a Power of the Doctor discussion coming up, and I very much want to get into that, and why I'm very much looking forward to Tennant as the 14th Doctor. But we'll get to that when we get to it on your side of the things. But yeah, I mean, yeah, as I was
You know
saying,
what? I was gonna say I'm gonna watch that TT talks. I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna do it as a drinking game, and every time you say brilliant, I'm
I
gonna take a sip.
I actually said that during the podcast about the drinking game. I mean it. I mean Yeah, go ahead at your own risk. By the way,
Yeah,
anyone watching,
it's
I am
fine.
not liable for any accident caused by the amount of drink you consume while I
What
say
I'll do
brilliant.
is I'll do it, and then I'll get my wife to take a picture of me in the same pose as you on your kitchen floor once when you post Power of the Doctor.
That was like
How many?
that was like 5 minutes
Oh,
to an hour after it done. Like I was pacing around the kitchen in like there were like still tears in my eyes. I was uncontrollably laughing. Like yeah, with the same energy as the reaction during the credits that's on my channel, by the way, that's got 8K views. Jesus Christ.
yeah.
Oh, that's
I would
insane.
not be. I would not be surprised if by the end of this you hit like 10 or something. Just
I'm
because
gonna check. I'm
you
gonna
know.
check.
Go on. I'm
Uh
interested. I'm invested now.
it's currently got 8,035. It's gone up by 30, which
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if your prediction ends up right. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's insane. Actually
That's
insane.
just. I need to get into the YouTube game. I'm telling you now. I think there's money in it. I think I could do something with this.
Yeah, well,
I think I need.
I mean, podcasts are quite popular. I mean, the talk with's been going well. Long form content is a big thing nowadays. I mean, of course, I can't profit off audios. I can't. I actually can't profit yet because you have to have
Hmm,
1,000 subscribers, and I believe it's 4,000 watch hours. Which
right.
is an insane task to get. I wish YouTube would lower that
Jesus.
because I haven't got it
Yeah.
yet, and most of my content is an hour, 2 hours. I've only got to 1,757 public watch hours out of 4,000.
Oh, God
So
Almighty.
it can be quite difficult to get monetization, but just start Ko-fi,
Hmm,
start Patreons and
yeah.
stuff like that. That's probably your best bet when it comes to
Yeah. That's true.
getting in
We
it.
do have, we have a Ko-fi as well, by the way. Just if anyone wants to buy us a coffee,
I
that'd
will
be nice.
put that in the description as well, and I'll also put my own in the description as well, which I've also started up
Yes.
now because I am a uni student and I need money.
I remember it well. I remember it
Yeah, I
well.
mean, I've got to get
Yeah.
a job sometime. I haven't gotten around to that yet due to the schedule of uni and everything, but I will. Don't know what yet, but I'll
Mm.
figure out something. Um,
It's really, I find it's tough, like especially in like your first year, it's tough to get a read on it because such a massive part of uni is not just the course, it's the socializing as well, and
yeah.
it's meeting people and having new experiences, and it's having your taster in the world as an adult.
Mm,
Basically, because you still kind of got the training wheels on, you still kind of got them a little bit, but
yeah.
you have more of a safety net, but you're out in the world as an adult for the first time,
I
which
mean,
is
thankfully,
a lot of fun.
socializing has gone really well. Because I know it's
That's good.
just great. I really enjoy socializing all the time. It's really um, it's kind of like I hate I hate the David Tennant comparison again, but like in Midnight when he's just talking to everyone, I find it quite easy to just do that.
Oh no, yeah, but don't end up in a stressful situation because they'll turn on
Well,
you.
hope not,
Don't do it.
but I mean, and yeah,
No, Rory.
that's kind of how I noticed my David Tennant identity crisis, my identity meta crisis. Um, because like they started putting out like even how I apparently how I enter the room is doctory. Apparently, because like I know I just love
Yeah,
having
just
energy. I
just
love like
what, just
jumping into each
just
room.
walk in like you own the place. It works for him. So
Uh, well, we don't quote that episode. I mean, yeah, that is kind of how I do things. I love having that energy and just running into every room, even if I'm like exiting the toilets. I just dash into every room, and it's fun. I just like doing that. And that, I mean, yeah,
yeah.
I even like the David Tennant identity crisis, like wow, and oh yes, and all that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily originate from Doctor Who, even. I mean, it's just me. Really, in the day, it's all of us. I mean, even if we do get attributes from elsewhere, from things we've watched, or the people around us, or the surroundings around us, at the end of the day, it's us. It's all us.
Mhm.
It's all attributes that we carry, that we have. While it may be, inspired, it's still ours. It's still ours to own, ours to, you know, it's still us, projecting who we are, who we want to be, who we always will be, who we were, etc., 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 etc. Yeah, well, yeah.
See,
Uh,
you've just gone into a doctor's speech right there. Like, do you have Moffat and Darcy on retainer or something? Or
I mean, I do love a good monologue. I mean, you couldn't get that from my content. Yeah, I do like going into speeches. That's another thing. That I've noticed. I mean,
you're good at it. You're very good at it.
you'll notice
You've
in
done a
most
couple.
of the a talk with. I mean, even the one with Gary Russell, I went into a few passionate speeches about fandom and
Mm.
people being together, and it's yeah.
But it's wonderful because I always say it, but the most interesting thing for me is when I can see that someone's passionate about something because it's interesting. The most interesting thing in the world to me is someone's passionate about something, whether it be Doctor Who, whether it be anything. If they're passionate about it, I'm invested and I want to hear about it. And now you've done a couple on our podcast as well, just these beautiful on the spot, speeches, and I've just gone like, wow, this guy is going to be showrunner of Doctor Who one day. He's going to be.
I'll take that as a compliment. And we're back in this mostly unedited show, which is always a pain with Zoom and having 40 minutes per call.
Yeah.
Always the worst that, but I will try and get a permanent Zoom for future calls. Hopefully, that's one of the reasons I set up a Kofi. Yeah, if people want to check it out in the description, by all means.
Yeah, same please. Any help with that? Because we
Mm.
we use a I like to refer to it as Zoom from Wish, and it's all right, but It's not
Mm.
Zoom. I'll say that much.
Yeah, so back to an awful lot of running, of course, because how long have you been going on for that, by the way? How many episodes do you have out at the moment?
We've got our 31st came out today, which is a Halloween special, and in that we've had 3 episodes of Battles in Fandom, with another one, the Halloween special, coming out on Halloween. So imagine by the time this comes out, it'll be available. So yeah,
Mm. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we've been going since March 2021.
Mm.
So and we're slowly picking up more listeners, which is lovely. But and it's great and it's lovely. Yeah, it's great to have people listening. But at the same time, the reason I do the show is because I want to talk about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Like, and Robin's great for it, and I love having people on like yourself and other people in the community as well. I want to start getting on people that have worked on Doctor Who as well, because I just think
Mm.
that'll be so much fun. And I feel
I
like the
mean, same
shows are
here,
great.
really. I mean, of course, I
Yeah.
spoke to Gary Russell not that long ago, which
Mhm.
was brilliant. As we've talked about that episode. I mean, it was truly fascinating to be a part of, and I think this whole like this part of this conversation kind of harkens back to when he asked me why I do this,
Mm.
and then I think the main reason that came out of that was fun. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, that's why everyone does this. Well, that's why everyone should do this. I mean, if
Mhm.
it's not fun, then it's just it's not it just becomes somewhat restricted, somewhat
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Exactly. Yeah.
it
Exactly.
becomes more of a business if you
Mm.
make it not fun. If you don't, for podcasts, if you don't bring on guests every so often, if you don't have more opportunities to have fun like that. I feel like at the end of the day, that's why every content creator does this. That's why fan doctors wear funny outfits and go out and say, "I'm the doctor," because we want to have fun. We want to
Yeah.
play that role for non-profit fan productions. We just want to wear silly costumes and have fun. Same with audio dramas, podcasts, everything. Yeah,
Yeah. No. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. And I mean, it is, and I certainly feel as well with anything you do, and especially a podcast, and you've got to keep it fun. You've got to keep the energy. You can't rest on your laurels. You've got to constantly think, well, how can I make this better? How can I improve this? You've got to adapt with the situation, and that's something I love doing. I mean,
mm.
the whole reason I do it is because growing up, I never had many friends anyway. Certainly not many that were into Doctor Who.
Neither did I.
And yeah, and so my long suffering wife, bless her, is amazing and will very happily sit there and let me talk to her about Doctor Who for a long time. But then they got to a certain point where it's always been my hyperfixation. It always has been, and there are other things that come as well, but Doctor Who is the
Yeah,
constant. It's a thing I love most. And I've never had much confidence in myself. I still don't really, I have a real self-esteem issues and real I doubt myself a lot, in what I do, and I have issues there with that. But the podcast is great for me. Like an awful lot, really great that I can just have that vehicle to talk to people about.
yeah.
And if nothing else, at least once a week I get to have Robin on, and we get to just have our geeky, like our geeky purge, as it were, and it all just comes out, and then we can, let it
Yeah.
accumulate again over the week, and then come back to it.
I think that's the joy of it. You've summed it up right there. I mean, I myself didn't have that many friends growing up. I mean, of course, in that was mainly school primarily. I mean, of course, I would often come home and ramble about Doctor Who to my family, and I'd watch it with them every Saturday.
Yeah,
And
same.
it's always been a joy, with them, and specifically my dad, of course, because he introduced me to the show, which is why the show sort of it means a lot to me in general, but that is quite a that I mean, he laid the foundation for why it means more and more every day to me now. I mean,
Mhm.
which is brilliant. It's you know, and but now, I mean,
What
look
what a wonderful gift. What a wonderful gift that he gave you
he gave my
in that.
comfort,
And look at
and
you now. Yeah.
I mean, look at how far both of us have come now. I mean, uh, I mean, you said you didn't have that many friends, but now in the beginning, but now, I mean, you've talked to so many people about Doctor Who, and you can, and we have Twitter, even if Twitter is a hellscape sometimes. Well, I say
Oh God,
sometimes, but
it
I
is.
mean, looking on the bright side of life, um,
You got
we've
to. You
all
always
come
got to
so
do that.
far. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why the Doctor is such an inspirational hero, is that he was that lone little boy in the sitting in the cold, and look how far he's come. Look how far they've come. They've got the biggest family in the universe, as Sarah Jane put it. And I feel like that's very representative of the fandom and how far we've all
Totally.
come.
And don't get me wrong, there's a racist uncle there, because
Oh
there's
yeah.
always a racist
Oh
uncle somewhere.
yeah.
But then the less said about those type of people, the better, really. Because we're in a few just group chats with just wonderful fellow Whovians, and I love the conversations we have in there about stuff. And if ever anyone's having a
I
down
mean,
day, everyone just pulls together, and
exactly.
it's wonderful.
I mean, we can have debates about whether the war chief is the master or not, and we can talk about love and monsters to no end and make it my
Yeah.
brand, apparently, and never stop bringing it up in every single one of the
Oh,
videos I'm in. Or
do you know? Do you
every
know? Oh, it's amazing, isn't it, that your brand has become that. My brand has become me defending a ruling in Battles in Fandom episode 2, because
mm.
I cannot thought right. Okay, I'm going to talk about it now, and I'm going to make an apology in the final episode of this series of it, and I'm never going to talk about it again. Okay, in the second episode of Battles of Fandom, a fantastic episode. Josh Carr, Jack Reeves, and Ben Warburton, Vacuum and Collington's all on there together.
All brilliant people.
Absolutely brilliant. So funny. So many great things coming out of it. Things like Jack Reeves shouting "Order, dickhead!"
Yeah.
The boxes clause, which but we will get it on the wiki, because part of the Doctor has blown it out of proportions now, because the boxes clause. Remember it, people. The boxes clause. But there was a question. One of the questions, the second question in the episode was about, and Robin had come up with the question. It was about if you were going to create a Doctor Who movie in the style of Peter Cushing movies today, what would you do and how would you do it? And Josh Carr had a great one. Florence Pugh in Crash of the Byzantium. Brilliant. Ben, another great pick. Tom Holland in a remake of The Caves of Androzani. And then Jack Reeves had a beautiful inspired pitch for Dwayne The Rock Johnson in Midnight.
I mean, I could see it.
And I would recommend. I'm not going to say any more of his points, because it's a beautiful thing to listen to.
I
And
would agree with that, like that pitch, as long as everyone else in the cast was played by every other actor who was in Jumanji, like the entire Jumanji cast in Midnight. I'm going to add to that pitch.
That's nice. But
that's my addition for you.
Robin and I ruled that Jack's pitch was best there.
Right.
Even though it was a comedy one, because I went like, yes, all these arguments are great. However, I mean, I'm gonna fucking see the Rock in Midnight as soon as it comes out, and I stand by that. But I have got so much shit, so much shit for that.
Okay.
And yeah,
I've tried to think of a pitch while we've been speaking, because I've been trying to think of one, and I think I've got one. Jason Statham playing Elton in Love and Monsters. I haven't cast the rest of the cast in my head yet, but I can just imagine
I love it.
I can imagine it in my head, like this really dramatic Love and Monsters. Of course, you have the ELO soundtrack, which would work amazingly in cinema. I mean, who doesn't love ELO? I mean, if there's one
It's
thing I
true.
love, there's Doctor Who, there's movies, but if there's one thing I love, it's Jeff Lynne and the Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah. And let's face it, if there's any Doctor Who episode that needed more runtime, it was Love and Monsters.
Oh, of course.
Of
course,
of course,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Even then, I'd actually make some additions. I'd because of course Russell was planning to. Well, in his book, he said that he was going to include some classic stories. So like the Loch Ness monster in the Thames. Elton's mum was originally going to be killed by a plastic daffodil. Um, which
Just
all of that would have been brilliant. I mean, Elton's
mm,
dad would have he would have been a part of the Shoreditch incident in
yeah,
1963. So if I was making a abridged version of the movie, I'd first throw all those things in as the kind of start, and then get into the more recent stuff.
yeah. Oh, that's good. I like that.
Mm.
I'll have to remind me to bring that question back, and maybe you'll see some previous questions being reused in future episodes as well. Because sometimes when you have a really good question, why wouldn't you bring it back for more debates? You know?
Mm. Oh no wait, no wait, no wait. I've got a better idea. Okay, Love and
Oh, here we go.
Monsters,
Here we go.
but Elton is played by Chris Pratt. No, no, wait, no, wait, no, wait. Love and Monsters, but Elton is played by Jason Statham. Ursula is played by Chris Pratt. That's 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 the idea.
That's the one.
That's the
That's
one.
the one. Yeah. And I'll tell you now, I would have given you the point for that on it. So insert ding now. Yeah. For
Mm. Oh, we could
very
also
good.
throw in Dwayne the Rock Johnson as Victor Kennedy. No wait, no wait. Dwayne
True.
the Rock Johnson as Mr. Skinner. That's
Yeah.
an inspired
Yeah.
idea right there.
That's better because I don't think I could stick. I don't think I could sit with knowing that Dwayne the Rock Johnson was playing Ian Levine. I couldn't. He's too
Yeah.
likable, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, question is, who would play the Absorbloff in my pitch? Who would James Corden? No. Wait,
Yeah.
yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
James
Job
Corden.
done.
That's
There you
some
go, James
that's
Corden. That's it. That's it.
that's the money shot. Yeah, it's James Corden.
There you go.
This is a fucking Dark Days episode waiting to happen. Uh, mm,
I
but
love it. Yeah.
yeah, I gotta say, I do love. I'll keep saying this. I love Battles in Fandom. Absolutely.
Oh,
I,
thank
I
you.
know. I know. As
Thank
you
you.
mentioned, it's not an original idea, but what you've done with it, how you've taken it, the people you've got involved in it, and yourself as a host, absolutely magnificent series. Absolutely, and
Thank
Robin as
you.
well
Thank
as
you.
a host for some of them. Absolutely magnificent series.
Thank you. That really does mean a lot. Like how much I love Dark Days. So whenever someone says that they've enjoyed anything that I've done, I'm just like, thank you. Just thank you for listening. It's just it means the world because it does. And it was. You know what? This is I feel like this is a good time to bring this up. How how surreal Galaxy 4 at the BFI was,
Yeah, yeah, it was
and that was the
completely
first time
surreal.
we met. For Abominable Snowmen, it took a leap. It felt even stranger. It
Mm,
felt even weirder.
yeah.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
I absolutely loved the Abominable Snowman that day. I mean, it was genuinely an incredible day out, just as incredible as Galaxy 4. I mean, um, there was just so many good memories. I mean, being when Jared was handing out all those envelopes, and they took out the Madame de Pompadour one. And they said, "Oh well, nobody will want this." And I put my hand up and said, "I want this. Of course, I want this. Why wouldn't I want this?" I mean, I think everyone knows the context by now.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true. Yeah.
and I mean, I just put it in my phone case for the entire day, and people like Lee Binding recognized me because of what happened that day, and because of that
Yeah.
safe space, which and then like
Yeah.
the other memories made on the BFI Abominable Snowman. I mean, just sitting around the table, just talking to everyone, it is enough in its own right to like be like one of the best memories. I mean, we were sitting with Davis and Ben and his girlfriend and uh who else was on the table? I mean, there was
Harrison was there, wasn't he?
that's one, yeah,
Jackalope, wasn't he? Yeah. The
yeah,
director
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, there were, and then like even more people came along, and it was so nice. Just it was always nice being in that restaurant and sitting with people. Like, I mean, even for Galaxy 4, when we were all sitting around that table and all got that
Yeah.
iconic photo together. That photo is iconic.
It is straight up.
It's
That
one of my
was.
favorites of all time, and so is
it,
that
it was
moment.
so funny that day as well because it was so funny because people kept coming up to me and Josh told me this joke on Twitter, like he tagged me in it as well, who's like me and Jack at the BFI meeting, or where all these YouTubers are introducing themselves to us, and it's just the Daleks going, yes, we know who you are. And it was that, and which is great. But then for me personally, Abominable Snowman took a foot up in terms of weirdness and being
Oh
surreal.
yes, because of what happened in the actual auditorium, the actual theater. I'll let you tell the
Yeah,
story because
yeah. So I'm all about promoting an awful lot of running. I'm all about doing that. So I did the thing which quite a lot of people have done. Again, it's not an original idea. That's kind of my brand. I made some badges and brought them up to the BFI, and I put a thing on Twitter saying I'm on my way now to the BFI. Can't wait for Rollable Snowmen. Got some badges. Please, if you see me, come and grab one. Gave one to yourself and all our friends that were there. It's like, oh, can you wear one of these, please? Like, here you go, have this. And I sit down in my row and I open my bag of jelly babies. Mr. TARDIS is one person away from me, just on the row there. I'm just sat there, just chilling, get ready for the presentation. And the two hosts come on the stage there for the BFI, as they always do, and do a little intro. And they're reading out tweets then from people that have been there. And I'm just like, oh yeah, cool, whatever, what have you. And then they get to the last person they're going to call out, and they go, and the last person here is Anne is on Twitter is an Ann_awful_Jack. And what the? And they say, apparently you do a Doctor Who podcast and you've got some badges. Can you come up and show us these badges? And I had an out-of-body experience because I was just, what is happening? What is going on right now? So I get up, then I stand up, I spill my jelly babies on the floor, which is the most tragic part. I go up there. No, it's not the most tragic part. Wait for it. The most tragic part, I get up there. I have a little chat with them about, what we do and what have you. Give them both a couple badges, which they both are very appreciative of. I get back down, I sit in my seat and I go, I never said the name of the fucking podcast.
I mean, it was still great. I mean, I was looking over as they cautioned him, because I was sitting right across, and I was in direct I was in the center, so I had direct vision of where you were and where Mr. Tires was, and I saw you walking out. I know that guy.
Jude,
I know that guy.
Yeah, Jude at Pig and a Tea Break sent me a video because he was there as well. He took a video of it happening, and I couldn't watch it back because I was just like, it's terrible, because I'm just so it's not starstruck, but I'm just so I wasn't expecting this at all, and I'm just you can tell I'm really awkward, and it's terrible. Then I had quite a few people come up to me for badges at the end, which is lovely, and what have you. But then the most surreal thing is in the bath. At the end of it, we're all there. We've been for a meal. We come back. Quiz of Rassilon is done. We're all there. I go up to the bar, and I think I'm getting you a drink actually at that point. I'm grabbing you a drink.
I remember this.
And the chap comes up next to me, and the woman behind the bar says, "Oh, are you two together?" I say, and you know me, I'm full of beans at that point. I'm with my people. I'm really happy. I've seen everyone that I know, and they know me. I feel much more confident in myself. And they go, "Oh, I'd be so lucky. He's a very handsome gentleman." He goes, "Oh, thank you so much. That's really kind." And we have a little chat then about Doctor Who and what have you. And then I go back over to the side and I go, I can place that guy, but I can't think of a second. So I go to Twitter and I go up. I look for a few people. And I go, oh wait, that's Lee Binding.
Yeah,
I've just been having a chat with Lee Binding. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I was I just talked to him. Very lovely guy. Hope to bring him on the podcast one day. I mean, we did discuss it on the day. I think it's because I brought up I was a podcast host, and then you brought up you were a podcast host, and then he came to the conclusion that we were together at first, and I was unintentionally very just oh no, because I mean, it was
Rory, why don't you want me? What's wrong with me? No, that was funny in itself that he thought that we were together. But then it's the most surreal thing in my life. This is literally the most surreal moment in my life. Josh Carr, Ben vacuum of comments there. Lee Binding stood next to me. Clever Dick's film stood next to him.
I know, yeah.
And they are stood there explaining the Boxers Clause and talking about Battles in Fandom to these men that I respect immensely. And I'm just stood there going, what is going on?
You started this.
Happening?
This is you.
They're talking about my content to these two people. What is going on?
You see,
So
even
yeah,
even that event in the bar wasn't the most insane thing to happen that day.
no,
No,
it
I mean
wasn't.
the most insane story. I mean, we went to I can't remember what restaurant it was. I can't remember the name of it,
Yeah, I
but
think it was giraffe. It might have been giraffe. Yeah, I
we
think
were
it could have
sitting
been.
outside, and first things first, I got to talk about this. But that fucking bee, like we were being stalked by
It
like
was we were being stalked by like three
well, we were
wasps,
being
weren't we?
stalked by
Yeah.
several like wasps that were just like coming
Which
around and
which by
around.
the way, Clever Dick's Films dispatched with
I
the
know.
tenacity of an assassin. He was straight up just murking these wasps.
Mm. It was just like proper like the force of like seven gods just going straight for the bee. And like it was insane just watching that. But then the most I think it's one of the most insane life stories I can tell. I mean, saying that, I have so many from this year, it's actually fucking insane. I have like I will make a video at the end of the year just telling all of these different stories I've gotten from this year because I have like 50 to
You've got
80.
a lot. You have got a lot. You've told me some things, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
how is, you really are living a doctor's life. You are having adventures. Like strange things are happening to
Yeah. I
you.
mean,
Yeah.
this one in particular was it was surreal because like I mean we were just I think we were yeah we were eating our food. I was just getting drinks at the time, like I was just getting a few
Hmm.
cokes,
Yeah.
because
Same. Yeah.
we'd already eaten by that point at the BFI before we'd gone here, and then I look over and then I swear I saw Ian McKellen, say
No.
McKellen, and
No.
then like
What you say to me? You go. I swear I recognise that guy,
I
and I
swear
say yes. You do, Rory, because that's
that's
Sir Ian
Ian
McKellen.
McKellen. And then I'm like, oh, do I go up to him? And then I'm like running it through my head because like I'll backtrack to another story in a minute. But ever since that story that I'll backtrack to, I've taken every opportunity I can, because I know that is the only moment I'll be able to run up to Sir Ian McKellen in the street and at least say hello. And I do that because he's quite far away by then. So I get out my chair and I run, and I mean I am running, and I properly like I mean I slow down when I go up to him. Obviously, I'm not just gonna go. I'm not gonna trip up Sir Ian McKellen.
It's not a good look to just barge into Sir Ian McKellen. No.
Not really, no. So
No.
I'm walking around him and I'm just saying, oh hello, nice to meet you. Can I get a photo? And he just says, "Oh, I can't. I don't do that, but thank you," and then walks off. And even the fact that he was there and I managed to say hello and I managed to just go for it is enough. That's all. That's all I needed. Because if I didn't, I would have
Yeah.
regretted it for the rest of time.
Yeah.
But
Exactly. And how funny is it as well that we were there for the Abominable Snowmen and you saw the voice of the Great
the great
Intelligence?
intelligence, and I didn't even like pick that up in my head. I didn't even make that connection. I mean, even the other day when I met Rich D. Grant after his one-man show, um, you met. I think it was you who mentioned that I've met
Yeah,
two
it
great
was. Yeah.
intelligences now, which is insane to think about. Mm. But that was insane. That was an insane day, and I loved every minute of it.
It was
I really did.
brilliant. It
But
so was.
backtracking to that other story I was talking about is the time I met Christopher Eccleston, and I've told the story a few times to people on
You told it
probably
on
on
the
this
pod actually.
podcast.
Yeah, you told it
Yeah,
on an awful lot of running.
and
Yeah.
I probably
Wonderful.
told it on this one a few times as well. But it's a story that's so important to me because yeah, as I said in your pod, I mean it was I waited 6 hours to meet him because he was filming in my hometown for a Channel 4 show, which I can't remember the name of, and it was just filming in my hometown, complete chance. And I was waiting in like a car park for like a car park like area for like 6 hours until it was dark with my DVD cases in my hand, the DVD things in my hand. Um, and so I was waiting there until it got dark, and I made friends with a really nice security guard that night. Really nice security guard, just chatting and making sure I'm all right for 6 hours, and we were just non-stop chatting about stuff, and it was just one of those people that you could really talk to for that long, and it was, never got old. And then at like the 6 hour mark, it was like 11 to like midnight. It was pitch black outside now. Um, I'd essentially given up at that point.
Mm.
I'm willingly given up, and I got my mum to collect me because it was late out, and I
Yeah.
and it was like 2020. So this was like mid-pandemic. For
Yeah.
more context there, to like it was like October, September. So not mid, but quite well. Actually, considering how many years we had, it is kind of mid-pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But I can tell you now, this story is not mid. This story is fantastic.
nicely done there. Um, and then we were driving along because and I was depleted for waiting 6 hours not getting anywhere. And then we notice like quite far up the road, more or less around the corner, but really quite far up the road, there's filming going on. And we think maybe, well, it could be. And that's enough for me to go have a look. And so we drove up there, and immediately I see someone sitting on the ledge like that, reading a newspaper. And he had this obviously recognizable hair going quite down, uh, quite and he's just sitting there reading his newspaper. Immediately recognized him as Christopher Eccleston, and
Yes.
I'm there, and I've got a lot of anxiety, a lot of doubts, a lot of fear going into this. My mum's shouting at me to like go shout up to him, properly, like declare that I'm here, I want to meet you. And but I don't. I refrain myself. I'm holding back, and I'm like, do I say something? Do I shout up, Chris? Chris? Like not properly shout, but like even like whispering, even like trying to say something. But I fear, oh, what if they're filming? What if they pick up my voice? What happens next? I mean, but he's obviously not. He's sitting there reading a newspaper. So and then there was one chance where I got really close, where like there was this like passageway up, like stairs up to the filming, and I actually managed to get up there and like see the filming. So like see it from like there was like the post production team there, like checking the audio, the cameras. You could see the car moving, and I was just standing there like looking at it all until they escorted me out, of course, because
Yeah,
well,
of course.
and so I'm about to go home, but I'm still waiting. My mum wants to leave, you know. At that point, it seemed highly unlikely. So I walked to the other end because it's kind of like this building that kind of has car park behind it and like a hill going down. Like this, it's quite square, but then it kind of has a hill going down, and that's where they were filming like a car scene. And so I'm standing there, still quite anxious. And then Chris walks down the hill, and he's already quite far away. He's already walking down the street, and I'm just standing there like, do I go? And like I'm completely frozen. It's like a fight or freeze moment, but I just no fight, just completely frozen. And I'm just holding my DVD cover there. Then it's like the Dalek one, the blue one.
Yes.
And like because I did have the red one, but it was kind of difficult to see on it. And
Mhm.
so I went
But
for the
yeah,
blue
you,
one.
you want one of the Dalek ones. You wanted to have a Dalek on it as well, don't you? Let's face it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this assistant there, or the director, assistant director, or whatever role they had, they said, "Go, go to them. They're really nice. You'll never regret it." And then I just ran. I ran as fast as I possibly could, shouting, "Christopher, Christopher!" His full name. It sounds like good. And then like Christopher, Christopher. No anxieties, no doubts, no fears, no nothing. In that moment, my head is completely clear. Like, and from then on, it was, I had no trouble with anything like that, or being, uh, you know, having that sort of confidence to go and run up to Ian McKellen in the street as I did a few weeks back. And so I ran up to him and I said hello, and he was happy as all could be. And this was like a few days after he was announced to come back from Big Finish, even. And like
Yeah.
I was just saying, "Oh, thank you for coming back. Genuinely means the world." And then he was asking me questions about what I do, and I was like saying, "Oh, I'm a film student at college." And then um he was really enthusiastic about it all, and really talkative, and um and then we were outside this Italian restaurant, and he like knelt on the table and signed a DVD cover, and then took photos with me as well. And then like
Wow.
one has the mask on, but I knew if I'm gonna have this photo, so I took the mask down, obviously. Um, and then the conversation ended with like him saying, "Oh, I'll work for you one day," which was really genuinely one of the sweetest moments of my life. Just him talking about working for me one day. And it was, and then after that, he started jokingly flirting with this group of women that come up to him afterwards. So it was
he's just there like, oh, hello, what's going on around here then?
pretty much, it was like they were saying, "Oh, I loved you as a doctor. I loved you as a doctor," and then he put on the doctor voice and all that, and it was a marvel to watch. Like,
Wow.
but it was just jokingly flirting with people and having a really fun time, just talking to people and being really genuine. One thing you can say about Christopher Eccleston is that he's the most genuine person you could possibly meet out there. Well, at least in the
Absolutely.
acting world, Doctor Who world. Very, very genuine, very
There's
nice.
nothing there's nothing fake about him whatsoever. At
Mm,
least everything I see, he says what he believes,
yeah,
and
I
he
fully
he stands
respect
up for
him.
that. And definitely, he's one I'd love to meet one day. I would absolutely love to meet him, because he's, I always say David Tennant's my favorite Doctor, but he was my first Doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the first that I properly got into the show with.
And I
So
think that kind of links back to our discussions about pedestals and everything, about
mm,
putting people on the pedestal. Is that Christopher Eccleston, wonderfully human, like
mm,
brilliantly human, in fact. And it was a very, very genuine, fantastic conversation that I will hold dear to me, and I will never take that for granted, because it gave me the confidence to push those kind of
mm,
anxieties about even talking to people. I don't think I'd be doing this podcast if I didn't have that moment in which none of that mattered, none of the anxiety or
yeah.
doubts or anything like that pushing me back mattered, because I was running forward,
Mm.
and that was, and yeah, I think that's a key moment.
That's wonderful. And I've been there. I've had moments like that. I mean, I for me it was Derek Jacobi was my, and
Mm.
there's me dropping that name. Boom, there you go. Yeah, War Master. But
Well,
he
I
was
could yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
gone.
Sorry.
I was gonna say I saw him in a play when I think I must have been 18. So this is good, This is over 10 years ago now. And I saw him after the play, and I literally ran after him to get his autograph. And he was the most unassuming, humble, and kind gentleman I've ever seen. He was like, "Oh, you want my autograph?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." And he chatted to me for about 10 minutes about acting, and it was wonderful. And I was like, "Oh my god, I just met the master."
I think I could probably drop a few more names as well. Because I used
Yeah,
to
I know. All right, yeah, real off. I've met two doctors. Okay, I'm
I
happy with that
I
a
mean
minute. All right.
I used to at like conventions and stuff, specifically the 50th, because I was there for the 2013 Excel one. Um, when I was 10 at that time, which is, it's really handy being born in 2003, because it's every 10 years anniversary. So when I turn 20, 60th, when I turn 30, 70th, 40, 80th. But at the 50th celebration, I can't quite remember what we discussed, but I because of course when they were going to like stages and then conventions they were going through, and then I, according to my mum at least, I remember it a bit, but I ran up to Bernard Cribbins, who was in his wheelchair just going across, and apparently I ran up and had a conversation with him. I can't remember what the conversation was about. I just remember him being really lovely, and I love having that sort of, it's not a memory I can remember all too well because of how young I was, but it's one I remember him just being lovely and really nice. And I also walked up to Boris Hussein after his talk on the stage, got his autograph, which was lovely getting that as well. And Ian McNeice as well, talked to him, and so while Chris Eccleston wasn't the first person I'd ran up to in the street, um, I mean, even like non-Doctor Who, I mean, uh, once upon a time at like Summer of the City, convention centered around YouTubers and all that such, because my sister wanted to go, and she's really, really a part of that crowd as much as I am the Doctor Who one. Uh, Back in the day, Daz Black was, a big YouTuber that everyone was interested in. We didn't really get she didn't really get a chance to meet him. I did, but then we were just walking up and down the place, taking one last look at I think it was Axel. Suddenly, Daz Black comes out the door, and sister kind of refrains herself,
Wow.
and then I run up and I grab him along and get his daughter. Right, so we've just been talking about the regenerations. I know we're talking about Power of the Doctor soon, but other regenerations. I mean, we were just talking about Castrofalva. I mean, you pointed me out on
Yeah.
my David Tennantism again.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
yeah,
well, because we were talking about Castrovalva, and I said, it's great up to the part where Peter Davison spends 2 episodes in a box. So
yeah. I mean, well, I I um I personally have a lot of nostalgia towards Castrofalva, and I do quite enjoy it for what it is. For like, it's very trippy, and I do like that aspect of Who.
yeah, no, I have a lot of nostalgia for it as well. Like Davison's era for me is probably on par with Eccleston's era for me in terms of nostalgia, because when I was watching Eccleston on BBC One, I discovered Classic Who omnibuses on what was it? What was it?
Gold.
UK TV Gold? Yeah,
Yeah.
UK TV
So
Gold. Yeah,
it's very
and
much the same.
the first one I ever saw was Keeper of Traken.
Yeah.
Then I watched Legopolis, and then from that point I watched all of Davison, all of Colin Baker, and all of Sylvester McCoy.
I think I have a few memories of Gold. I have one in particular because I remember when I was a wee lad, when I was a boy, I was staying, I think it was at Butlins or Pontins. Uh, and I remember one night, me and my sister, I think my sister was asleep at this point, but we had stayed up watching like shows that we couldn't really be allowed to watch, like South Park. Like I can't remember how old I was. I was like 8, 10, 12, 7, something. I was certainly alive. That's one thing.
Too young and impressionable for South Park,
Too
definitely.
young for South Park. I'll say that. Um, and like I don't really pay much attention to it. To be fair, it wasn't. It was kind of funny. Kind of just didn't really understand it at the time. But
Yeah.
then Doctor Who: Remembrance of the Daleks Part 1 came on. I think it was Part 1. And I have the same amount of nostalgia for that Dalek flying up those stairs as much as people living at the time, because I'd watched Dalek around the time. I'd seen Daleks flying at the time, but that cliffhanger, even for someone who knows that Daleks can fly, that cliffhanger is horrifying. It's
The
terrifying.
fact that it's the first time they do it, and
Mm.
then Rob Shearman beautifully just takes that moment, and he just takes that moment, and I think he said that before himself as well. He just takes that moment from remembrance, and yeah, the fear you feel, and the Dalek is shouting at you as it goes, shout at the Doctor as it goes up the
Mm.
stairs there as well, and just
But that's
yeah.
not necessarily my first Classic Who memory. I mean, I have tons of Classic Who memories from when I was a kid, where I watched this entire experiment a lot as a kid. Absolutely adored that, and
Interesting.
I think it was because
Yeah,
it was one of like my dad had a few DVDs. He had like the Three Doctors, the Five Doctors, the Centauran
yeah.
Experiment, and I watched every single one of
Mm,
them, like a lot. I have a lot of nostalgia for the Five Doctors, like a ton.
yeah,
But like the Centauran Experiment stands out to me in particular because Tom Baker was the first Doctor I ever met, but the first actor to play the Doctor I ever met. Um, and
I'm so
I
jealous. I'm
remember
so
because
jealous.
I was like really young at the time. I must have been around 6 to 8. I can't remember specific ages, but and I remember like I was watching the Centauran Experiment in preparation before meeting him. And when I did get the chance to meet him, I asked him the
Sorry, I love it. Of all the episodes, the Sontaran
mm,
experiment. Yes, I have a great love for the Sontaran
well,
experiment.
it only gets more I don't even know how to describe the story, but when I actually met him for the first time out of the 3 times I've met him, I asked him a
Oh,
really,
you're really
really
twisting that knife, aren't you, mate? You're really twisting. Yeah, okay. You've met Tom Baker 3 times.
yeah,
Great. Go on.
but the first time I met him, watched this entire experiment for you know, to kind of get some inspiration before meeting him. And then I asked him a really, really fucking specific question about this entire experiment. Great episode, but I think it was like a really kind of ridiculous question. It was like in the fight scene, why didn't you just whack him on the probic vent? Like, what were you doing? Why didn't you just whack? And that's not even the kicker. I mean, even recently, I'd only just learned that it was a stuntman. Like Tom Baker did none of those scenes on in that story because fun fact, he actually broke a bone during the filming of that episode because he fell over and he broke a shoulder and you can notice it in the episode because they got the stuntman, but Tom actually has his arm like this for quite a lot of it. And I didn't know that as a kid.
Wow.
So when I was
I didn't
asking
know
him, why didn't you whack him in the probic vent instead of, like tackling him to the ground? It wasn't even fucking Tom Baker who was doing that.
that.
I fully blame the stuntman for like
He's just
not.
there, yeah. Just he's just there, just being, yeah, because it wasn't me.
But he actually just said, "Oh, well, I want." He did his generic. I think he did his, his typical Tom Baker response. Well, I won at the end of the day, didn't I? Yes, yes.
Yes, ha ha ha.
It's, that's something that Tom Baker does when you ask him like a really specific question. For obvious reason, he's not going to remember an episode entirely from
I,
17,
yeah,
well, something odd of not 17 years ago. That'd be beyond even the show. I mean,
yeah, I
I
know,
didn't
right?
I didn't know Tom Baker was filming this entire experiment in the
Yeah,
50s.
he was actually, and it's annoying because Hartnell could have watched those episodes, but he didn't. He wasn't even a fan of the show when he was cast.
Wow.
Can you believe it? You know?
I didn't know that. That's completely atrocious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Cancel William Hartnell. That's what I'm saying.
but yeah, I mean, so I have plenty of childhood memories with, I remember watching The Hand of Fear after school reunion, of
Mm.
course, because, and Genesis of Daleks. But the most vivid childhood memories come from Time Lash, no, not Time Lash, Time Flight and Warriors of the Deep.
Oh
Warriors in the
no,
Deep, I
not Time
really,
Flight, not Time Flight. It's like
Time
Boys
Flight,
in the Deep, I'll forgive you on Time Flight.
Warriors of the
The
Deep,
the only way you can improve Time Flight is by switching the episode off.
I enjoyed Time Flight as a kid because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand it at all. And, I just
Well, I
liked
mean,
it because I,
I feel like the writers of Time Flight have probably had the same approach to it. They had no idea what was going on
I mean,
either.
and I loved Boris as Deep growing up because I didn't know Bella. So, but even
Yeah,
then, I do find it underrated even now. But that's probably because of how rooted it is in my childhood.
yeah. But then also, I like it now as well because of the ridiculousness that is the Merca, or should
Oh,
I
who
say,
doesn't love the Merca?
the Merca.
Everyone loves the Merca.
Again, sorry, it's the biggest failing for Legend of the Sea Devils for me that they didn't.
I
They
know.
didn't. Number one, it wasn't from the Merca, but number two, they didn't take the opportunity to have Jodie on the ship, look down, look up, someone say, "What is it, Doctor?" And her go, "The Merca." Can you imagine that moment?
I would have jumped out of my seat. I would have
Yeah,
like that would have been that would have been like I would have prepared a Power of the Doctor type reaction video and gotten 16K
straight
fucking
up,
likes on it.
straight
Um
up.
yeah, I mean but I think my earliest Classic Who memory though is probably one you probably aren't expecting, but when I was because I used to have vivid memories of this as a kid because like it was when I was like a wee baby and like I remember being in like like you have those gates and they like you have like your play area and they have like it's kind of like a extended kind of cot area and it's got all that
Yeah.
protective like gates and everything. And I remember as a kid seeing seeing two people on the TV turn into birds, and apparently it was Doctor Who, and I didn't know it was Doctor Who, but it was stuck in my head watching it because I can remember it in my head right now, looking through like the
Sorry,
gates and
I've just got
seeing,
Colin Baker in my head going, even more of me.
and then it was only like a few years ago that I realized that that's Vengeance on Varus.
It is indeed.
That is Vengeance on Bloody Varus. So I'd watched the Sixth Doctor episode when I was like two,
That
three,
is,
four
that's
even.
crazy. That is some body horror right
I
there to
know.
throw at Earth. Like,
No wonder
wow.
it's stuck in my head. And like
Yeah,
watching it
Jesus
through like my
Christ.
bloody cot. And like
Yeah.
and I didn't know it was Doctor Who. I genuinely had no idea it
That's
was Doctor Who
well, I
until
can
like
understand
someone
that. Yeah.
until I watched it a few years ago. Um
See, it's funny. I can tell you my first memories.
mm,
Beyond seeing Daleks on like Kit Kat adverts, weirdly, and catching the percussion movies, because I feel like everyone just knows the percussion movies for some reason, just because of what they are. But for me, I have this really vivid memory, and it's really weird because it's not in the episode at all. It's when it's a Mandela effect. It's John
ooh,
Pertwee's Doctor
yeah.
in a hazmat suit coming out of caves into a house, and a close-up shot of a Silurian turning around, and it being this. It's not in Doctor Who and the Silurians. That doesn't happen.
It feels
But they have
like
this really vivid memory of it
mm,
happening for some reason.
mm.
And then as well, the Auton stepping, or the shop window dummy stepping out from in Spearhead from space, because that terrified me
I
as a
tell you what,
kid.
talking of Mandela effects, here's a story of how I invented a story in my head that I genuinely believed was a real story growing up.
Do you know what? Robin
Kind of
does this all the time on the podcast. He'll say
like
to me, "Do you remember that episode?" And I'm like, "No, because it didn't
this
happen."
is it's
Please go on. Go on.
genuinely weird because it feels quite paradoxical. It feels like someone's gone into the timeline and completely changed it. But it was like because I remember growing up and I was watching the Lazarus experiment with my dad. We were sitting on like the sofa or the floor, and I was like, cuddled up to him and watching it, and lovely moment. And then the next time trailer comes up, and from what I remember, it was not 42. It had elements of 42 in it, but it would be 42 in like it was like the same kind of like sort of ship setting to a degree, but it'd be like this really green tint. Like it'd be not red or orange, it'd be really green. And the villain was not a postbox or anything. It was I don't know if I was mixing nightmares with real life because I was a kid, but it was like this huge fucking green blob of a monster. And it was really fucking strange. It's a really strange Mandela effect because this episode doesn't even
That
root
is
itself in reality because the whole plot I'd come up with in my head was this monster had swapped it's like this huge green monster with like teeth and like two eyes, and it swapped its mind with the Doctor's. And like this monster was talking with a really snarly David Tennant voice. I
wow.
don't and like I've been looking for this episode for years. This was like a missing episode to me because I'd somehow come up with it in my brain. And like I swear to God, at one point I'd read that episode title I'd come up with for that episode on like the poster with like all of David Tennant's episodes on it. I swear it was that. I can swear.
No, yeah,
I
that's
swear.
unless like some sort of like faction
Unless
paradox sort of
unless
bullshit
yeah,
has happened.
I swear
Like,
faction like members of Faction Paradox have gone into my fucking timeline and deconstructed it, like the timeline of and like removed the episode or altered it into 42.
that's weird.
It's
That and elements of dinosaurs on a spaceship, definitely.
mm, it was so strange, and like there were certain scenes from 42 there, like Martha floating away on the spaceship, but it was like all green and not red, ready orange. It was like a distinct, like dark green, like lighting and bright green inside. So like it was a dark green ship, and it actually, the more I envision it in my head, I'm gonna make this into a Dark Days episode one day. One
Yeah,
day, I
definitely. You
because
should
like
definitely.
Dark Days is very much comprised of childhood ideas that I had for like the at least the beginning bit of Dark Days. Like a lot of it is charged by that kind of uh it was sort of rooted within like when I was a kid. I used to do this like I used to write lists of doctors and all these story ideas I could come up with. None of them would work, none of them. But that was the joy of it all. And I do all these doctor lists, and then I hadn't watched Megalos or anything. So when I was doing the doctor list with every doctor I can imagine, I wrote like Megalos 4. And then like for like uh Ganger 11, and that was kind of that those two specifically because the Ganger 11 involved in that list inspired me bringing that gangers into that story that Tom wrote for Dark Days with Ganger
Yeah,
11 and 5.
it's a
And
great one as well.
I have so many childhood memories. Like, I'm pretty sure when I was growing up, I claimed to have come up with the idea of the snowman before Moffat did. And there's a distinct reason for that. There is a distinct reason for that. And
I'll
because
bite.
when well, so will the snowman in that episode. But frostbite. But in that
Oh no, no,
so,
Rory, no, no.
but when I was a kid, I'd take elements of the everyday world around me, and I'd play with one or two friends who weren't really my friends. They were horrible people. But like there was one person who seemed nice, and they used to like spray paint snowmen onto the windows. And there was one day where I thought, what if they came to life? And then I started like playing around with the fact of like evil snowmen that came to life, and then the snowmen came on TV, and I said, that's what I did. That's copyright me right now. I'm suing you, Moffat. I'm a 10-year-old and
Yeah.
I'm suing you. And like
How's that case? Did you settle out of court on that, or
it's fair to say I didn't, and I give full ownership to Moffat on that.
well,
But
well,
I mean,
legally you have to, don't you? Because you got
legally
in
I do,
trouble,
yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, and also, and now I'm going on a tangent here, but another childhood thing that I did was everyone has their kind of imaginary friends. And at one point in my life, mine were the Doctor and Donna. At one point, and I remember like they had these like monkey bars and all these this whole like greenery play area, and I'd run around with the Doctor and Donna, which was a lot of fun. I just remembered that right now, actually. It's quite nice. Yeah. Yeah. And even like with the few people I did know that eventually I didn't know, except a whole lot of drama. I did used to play with Doctor Who, and I'd be the Doctor and like companion, and there'd be a Dalek running around. And I mean, even I know I'm going on many childhood tangents now with memories like
No,
influx
it's
into my
like I said
brain.
before. I find it all interesting. Go, please carry on.
I remember when we had like this huge field area, and one day we found like cigarettes and such in it, and it became this like huge mystery, and I like jumped into like a Sherlock Holmes type mood of like trying to choose whose was it, who's the smoke. I found out who it was in the end when I saw someone in the bushes, a teacher I think it was, smoking, which and like
Oh,
there
now
was
that's interesting. There you
that
go.
was interesting. And I also found these like wooden sticks encased in wood. It was so strange. Like there was like strange happenings throughout that entire week. And like there was like this it had like the field, and then they had this very dark foresty area that was kind of like you could kind of go up a hill, and it was like this full blown forest in like pitch black, very creepy forest. And like I swear to God, one day I heard like a cackle at the end of it. And that's a distinct childhood memory. Like I swear, like a silhouette and a cackle, like a proper
Oh my
laugh.
God.
Because like I was with someone at the time, one of my friends, and we walked up there, and I was always ever so tempted to go in there and have a look around. Never fully went in there in the end, because it's that like it's like that
Well, I mean,
thought of
yeah.
it's like that thought every kid has. Do I escape school? Do I like run out the gates one day, or like climb over the fence or something? But you never actually do it. But like
Mhm.
walking through that forest, I think I might have went in there one day, but I didn't. From what I remember, I didn't. But I there are some memories of me like at least walking quite a bit in there at one point in my life.
Wow. I certainly wouldn't want to do that if I saw a silhouette and
Yeah.
heard someone cackling, because
Yeah.
that straight up, I would not have been brave enough to do that. That would have been me.
Mm.
Nope, I'm out of here. I'm good, and I will never return to this spot ever again. That's me.
I think I'll end this part of the conversation on like one more light-hearted story. Is that it was sports day, because we do love our sports days in this country. And like
we do.
it was, I think it
Yeah.
was like my first sports day, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And so when it came to one of the races, at one point I was just walking and like everyone was shouting my name and I was just like, hello everyone. I was just enjoying the moment. I was smiling and I was walking and I was just waving to everyone. Everyone was like shouting my name, like, go, go. I couldn't hear them saying go. All I could hear was them all shouting, Rory, Rory. And I was like, I was in the moment. I was just, hey, if I get this moment, I'm going to take it. I was just like, waving and
Yeah.
yeah, that was a fun time. I mean,
That was your main character moment right there, wasn't it? That
yeah.
was
I will say I bloody hated that school. There are a lot of
Mm.
very bad moments. I mean, 6 years worth. I mean, I was bullied pretty heavily, but there are very few moments like that. Very few moments that I can say, yeah, yeah. I mean, that you know, there it was 99.9% bad, but there were a few moments where I could jump into my Sherlock
and
Holmes
they're
arc and do
yeah,
my
and they're
thing.
they're the moments to hold on to. Don't think
Indeed.
about, don't waste your time thinking about people that aren't worth thinking
Indeed.
about is what I think about,
But
That's certainly what I think, yeah.
I mean, there was I mean, going from a more positive story to quite a dramatic one. But one day like as I said, I was bullied pretty heavily for 6 years, and there was one kind of culprit boy who I won't mention the name of. I'll just call him Jeremy. And that was all done. I went to a new school, and I had the time of my life for a year. And then I went to secondary, and it took me a while. I was kind of a prat. Well, I say kind of. I was very much an idiot back then, all the way until college. I'd say I was very much an idiot until
I was going to
college.
say, what changed?
Yeah, meeting the right people, I'd say. But there was one moment in secondary, year 10, like I was dancing around the library, really happy to be back. And then I was looking out the window, happiest time of my life. And then the door opens. I'm still looking out the window. And then in comes the child bully who'd bullied me for 6 years. And I wasn't looking at him at that point. And then I was still looking out the window. They said, welcome the new student. And I turned around dramatically and it's like we latch eyes. It's like a fucking Dr. Master moment, a Charlotte
Oh,
Moriarty
God.
moment. And it's like, oh, hello. And then I obviously walked out, but it was like that moment was it only lasted for 2 weeks until he was gone. But that was very dramatic moments. Whew. But yeah, that's all my stories out of the way. I got some more to tell on other episodes. Gotta save them and gotta spread them out. But that's a few childhood stories there for you. Yeah.
Well, fantastic, mate. Really interesting stuff, I love it when you can have a master moment with someone where you can just decide, you know, you are my enemy, and so it's
Mm,
always, I'm not one to make enemies, but I've definitely had that moment with people where I'm just like, I can't stand this. I can't stand what
yeah.
you stand for as a person, and it's one of those things, isn't it? That it's again, it goes back to that moral compass about how we as people, I'd never treat anyone in a way that would make them feel upset or feel
Mm,
belittled or like
yeah.
their self-worth is any less than anyone else's, and it's a complete alien concept to me that people can do that. And I know a lot of that can come from them themselves feeling that they're less in some way, and so why not take it out on someone else? But then sometimes you've got people that are just being a prick, let's
Mm,
face it.
yeah.
So I'm so and I've I had people bully me in my time in school as well. Nothing like 6 years of it. So I'm so sorry that happened to you,
Oh, it's fine.
mate.
It's a
But
long
but
time ago
you
now.
know what? But you know what? It speaks to who you are as a person. That you've turned out how you are now, and
And as I
you
said, I
know
had a few missteps along the way. I was, as I said, was an idiot for quite a while until
we all have those. But we all have
yeah.
those moments,
I think yeah, I think I'm gonna have this discussion when Channel Pop comes on here, but I think there's a huge thing with like culture during teenage years, and it can be a horrible time. It can be a
Yeah.
horrible time. Either you're either putting yourself down, or you kind of get absorbed into that kind of you know, all of these different crowds. You have the edgy crowd, you have the nicer crowds, and then you have the bullies, and then you have everything like that. And it was quite a difficult time to make friends that time. Similar to
Yeah. Uh,
yeah, I had to join one of the crowds, and they're all honestly, for the most part, all but
it's
one of them is usually horrible. And you
it's
don't
it's
you
so
don't
annoying.
know because they cloud it with either like dark humor or they cloud it with their own, nice smiles. That
Yeah, and exactly, and they go, "Oh no, I'm not being. It's just dark humor. It's not. It's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not being serious." But then at the same
exactly.
time, it's yeah,
But you
it's
don't
toxic,
realize it
isn't it?
at the
Yeah.
time because you want to
No.
be a part of the group. And that's why I say I was an idiot back then, because I got absorbed in all that, and I got absorbed with all these people, and they were nasty
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And naturally I regret that now, and I say I'm proud of who I am now. It's the here and now
Mm,
that matters to me, because I know back then it was so much about making friends and not like standing true to who you are all the time. Because like I feel like that's a huge part of culture now, with like teenagers especially, is that you can get absorbed into it all just to
mhm.
make friends.
There can definitely be like a mob mentality about things as well, with what have you,
That's
and
yeah,
things can be very clicky as well. But
yeah,
I'll say to you now, I'm proud of you as your friend. I'm proud of you of who you are, and
thank you.
I've said it before, you're an inspiration to me, and not just in terms of your content, what have you. You're an inspiration in terms of who you are as a person. I mean, look at you standing up for, you know, I'm not going to get into all of it, but like, standing up for people a lot, especially in certain spaces that aren't safe.
Mm. And
Um,
I
you
always
know,
will
that's,
stand up
you know,
for everyone, and I
yeah,
always try my best, as we all should,
exactly. Yeah.
as a
We should,
fandom,
yeah.
we should.
Because exactly, because what would the doctor do?
Exactly.
What would the
What would
doctor
the
do?
doctor do? I think that's a
Yeah.
really kind of nice note to kind of uh, end this to talk with on. It's been a pleasure having you on here today. Uh,
It's been a pleasure being on. Thank you so much for having me.
yeah, it's been wonderful. And if you have anything to promote, by all means, go ahead.
Well, I mean, there's me. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm Ann underscore awful underscore Jack. There's an awful lot of running. You can find that on Twitter as well. That's just Ann underscore awful. Please listen to us. We're available everywhere podcasts are. Check out the regular show. Check out Battles of Fandom. Rory's been on both. I've made the joke that before that he's returned more times than Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers in terms of things. So please come on, please come listen and just have a great time. We've got some great stuff planned coming up, some special guests that I'm not going to reveal at this time, but are quite well known in the Who community.
Indeed,
So
they
there might be
are.
something there. And we always open up questions when we have a guest on. So keep an eye out because you might get a question answered to someone. Yeah.
Well, as I said, been a pleasure talking to you. You're always welcome to come back on the show again, as is everyone who comes in here, by the way. I've never really said that at the end of these, but you're always welcome. And yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Can
And
we do tomorrow? Do one tomorrow then? Yeah. Brill. Because I'll come back on. Yeah. Awesome. Great.
right then, thanks for watching,
Well.
everyone. And well, make sure to leave a like and leave a comment. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.
Ta-ra!
Sayonara, everyone. And